It's Mercury retrograde. I'm here right in the middle of August 2024, and we have a Mercury retrograde, Virgo back to Leo. What better time to review and process and plan for the rest of the year? In this video, that's what I'm going to break down is the year that's left. We're going to look at the end of 2024, and the end of the year here, 2024, is set to be a really strange time because it's like a grind town where we're settling into some energies that won't depart and won't leave us until really June of next year, where we'll finally be settled into some new energetics. Mars will not leave Leo or Cancer until June 2025. Jupiter doesn't leave Gemini until June 2025, and Saturn of course leaves Pisces in late May 2025. So we're settling in to this kind of grinding down or a kind of plateau or stasis with the astrological energy. Main theme here to finish out the year 2024. We're going to break down that cycle and other cycles. Plan for your year ahead. Stay tuned. So settling in astrology, I kind of love it when the energies are kind of sticking around and we can kind of settle in, because if life's going good, you get to enjoy some consistent energetic. If you're having a great Saturn and Pisces and you're loving those new foundations, you get more of that and you get kind of locked in here to enjoy a stretch of that to finish out the year. I think with August and this retrograde of Mercury, it's almost like preparing for those settling in dynamics. For the rest of this time in August, it's like, okay, what do you want to be preparing for June of next year when everything changes, when we're fully into some of these new worlds? Here are the cycles that are operative. And the first one I want to break down is this Mercury direct station, 28 August. It's coming here very soon. And it really is a signal to kick off this delayed into the summer and all the mutable tension here in August. Mercury stations direct and says, time to go forward, time to maneuver into the rest of the year. What I love about Mercury's direct station in the period that will follow it is that Mercury re-enters Virgo on the 9th of September and is quite strong for all of September until the 26th. So we get this renewed Mercury moving faster in its domicile, its Earth domicile, to set us up for some really lovely moments here, I think, in September. Even though we have an eclipse, we can get into our mercurial and get into our maneuvering with the logic and into the rational maneuvering of our material form. And the other great thing about the end of August is that Venus enters Libra, its air domicile, on the 29th of August. And so we finish out the month of August with these power pivots, you might say. I covered that in my August preview video. But Venus will be in Libra 29 August through 23 September. And so again, September is a month of great opportunity this year because we get to enjoy both Venus and Mercury quite powerful in September. And I'm thinking that all of us are going to want to plan with September to really come into our power here to finish the year strong with a very strong September. Remember how important September always is. It's when we kick off the fall, and so there's new initiations on that fall equinox moment. And so being prepared for the new initiations to finish out the year with two very strong domiciled planets to get us through those moments. I love that about September. And keep in mind, it's the 3rd or 4th when Venus will conjoin the south node of the moon, or Ketu. And you might want to wait for that moment to fully unleash the Venus and Libra story, which can be things like reorganizing our relationships, recommitting to the serious relationships in our lives, and to the kind of intellectual and legalistic ways that we relate with other people. Big theme here to enjoy in September. And on the 15th of September, it's the best chart, I think, of the rest of the year. Certainly an excellent election. You don't really get one as good as this very often. Both benefic planets, Venus and Jupiter, will be in 20 degrees of their respective air sign. Venus in Libra, Jupiter in Gemini. And then the moon will also spend a moment in the 20 degrees Aquarius, and we'll get this lovely benefic air trine. Quite rare. The moon will be averse to both Saturn and Mars in this chart. And so if you're looking to initiate some things here in September before eclipse season, this would be the time to do it, I think. Trying to get into that air trine, benefic grand air trine chart. Got some water on me, it's okay. But the benefic grand air trine chart to unleash whatever actions you want to take. I mean, the high level theme here is September is the month to act. And the other thing about September, right on the 1st, is Pluto's re-entry into Capricorn. Of course, the Pluto and Capricorn stories back in 2008, when Pluto first came into Capricorn, was the election of Barack Obama, who was a first. And so we get here this final moment of Pluto and Capricorn, which is also during the election, potentially some resonance with that original Pluto and Capricorn moment when Barack Obama became president, now here with Kamala Harris running, and she would be a first, both in terms of the skin color and that combined with gender. So the first woman president. So it would be a real, like, kind of doubling up and a return to those original Pluto and Capricorn themes. This would be the last stint of Pluto and Capricorn. We finish out those stories. Other things I'm looking at, the bank failures, which happened in 2008, as Pluto's been going back and forth over Capricorn and Aquarius, we have had some bank failures. We've had, was it the Pacific Bank of some kind? A few of those banks failed, and then they were rescued by certain bailouts with the Treasury. I forgot the tricks that they were using to do that. But recently in the news, there's been this failure of the Japanese yen carry trade. The Bank of Japan, I think, raised rates like 1/4 point, and everybody freaked out and markets crashed. So I'm kind of wondering about this fall, and with Pluto back in Capricorn, just how much is in store for shocks to the banking system and gyrations along those lines. It would fit the symbolism of Pluto and Capricorn. On 4 September to 4 November, Mars will be in Cancer. This is quite important because Mars will be there for 2 months, and it will travel through Cancer, a sign that it has to return to in January. So whatever happens in September, October, and early November, we're gonna have to return to those themes and those stories, which is why it's so important to watch here in September. Mars are entering a sign that it won't leave for good this cycle until 18 April. So we're really digging in with Mars and Cancer, themes of action in the home, action for comfort and nurturance, action for love and protection of those around us, people that we're responsible for, our dependents, etc. Those stories are right in play here to be renewed and reconfigured. Of course, your chart will give you more information about what the sign of Cancer is doing in your chart. Of course, I love whole sign houses, so look for that Cancer whole sign house. This 2-month period of Mars in Cancer is a big preview of what we'll have to double back over and the reconfigurations that we'll be undergoing here the first part of 2025. Mars is back in Cancer 6 January to 18 April. You know, one thing I love about Cancer is the idea of the deep truths of reality. It's one of the most profound signs that I think evokes the real nature of what we're in. And so we might do some of that contemplation here this year, the end of the year, into the beginning of next, is just what is reality? You know, what is this matrix we've inhabited, and how are we working within that? How are you working within that? And I'm glad to take you on this little walk with me. You can see this park I'm in, one of the biggest parks in my home city, Tirana. I'm gonna walk in some of these trails and just get a little bit into nature here for this video. Now, we do have Mercury retrograde right now in the sign of Virgo. I think it's good to dig into nature, dig into the natural world. Always use the elements in astrology to work with the elements in our reality. It's a major, major way to deal with and interact with astrological symbolism and movement. So the next thing about September, and I'm gonna have a whole September breakdown. This is just one higher level trying to map the end of 2024 video. The first eclipse in Pisces. The Pisces eclipse cycle begins on the 17th, 18th of September, depending where you are. That's a big one because we now kick off a just under 2-year cycle of eclipses in a new sign. Always follow the lunar nodes. They are, in some sense, the most important change makers of all reality, the lunar nodes, because the lunar nodes map the relationship between the sun and moon. It's another fractal or measurement of that relationship. The lunar nodes measure the path of the moon and then the path of the sun, which is the normal ecliptic, and where they intersect. That's where the lunar nodes are. You know, in a certain way, all of reality is solar-lunal. The new moons, the full moons, the phases of the moon. That's all about the moon revolving around the earth, and the earth and moon together revolving around the sun. So the bedrock of astrology, the bedrock of our lives, is this relationship between the sun and moon. That's why you have a sun moon rising, SMR. One of the most important ways to think about astrology, and one of the most simplistic kind of stand-ins for our energy of selfhood, is what is your sun moon rising. Very common way that people engage with their astrology, sun and moon. And that's what eclipses are, how the sun and moon interact with their paths. And so we kick off this less than 2-year cycle of lunar eclipses running right through Pisces. There's only lunar eclipses with this cycle. I'll do a whole video breaking this down. So I don't want to dive too deeply in it here. It's just to say that's a big story of the rest of the year, is watching the Pisces sector and how that Pisces sector now, the Pisces sector will house an accelerant, which is this lunar eclipse, to accelerate all of the Saturn and Pisces new foundational work we've been doing since March 2023. So you've got to pay attention. in September to Pisces, because there's a major curveball or accelerant, like I said, around what's happening in Pisces for you. And that cycle and those themes will stick around until the last eclipse in Pisces in August 2026. So we're looking at, a setup here that lasts until 2026. I think it's one of the most important changes that comes this fall, outside of that grind energy and that staying locked in energy I mentioned at the beginning of the video. The 3 points I love to look at in astrology are lunar nodes, Saturn, and Jupiter as the set pieces. So we really are deepening with the mutable energy of our reality second half of the year. So, what is it? Settling into change. Just put simply, eclipses, the key word is change, an accelerator for change, and mutability is change. It's between two cycles. And so I think all of us feel it. Something may be coming, right? I've released that video about big changes coming now through 2026 when all outer planets change signs. We're in a period of great change, and I think that theme, that sense will be very palpable here second half of the year. What does Valens say about Pisces? I want to just add this because Pisces is the sign that will be central to the unfolding astrology of the rest of the year, with that first eclipse on the 17th, 18th, and Saturn still deeply in Pisces, just about halfway through its transit there. But Vettius Valens says Pisces is very wet, pertaining to waterside trades, bicorporeal, double-bodied, prolific, full of eruptions, of twin form, mute, restless, mutable, changeable, prolific, sociable, a cause of wandering, complicated, inconsistent, prolific, and popular. So you see, it's very much about the feeling. It's not as verbal. It's about relational energy, Venus being the exaltation lord of Pisces. It's about shifting and moving environments, not really grasping one thing and feeling into the energy of relationship. I mean, all of these are key Piscean qualities. The creative and artistic, I think, may come in with the idea of prolific, the idea of, sociable. That can be art, can be quite sociable. You're just grooving with the creative flow. You'll be called into that, I think, the rest of the year in 2024, just grooving into that Piscean flow, riding the seas of Pisces, letting Saturn make it serious and maybe scary at times, letting the eclipses open up so-called portals or tears in the matrix of reality where new energies can step through that might be of this Piscean, non-verbal dreamscape quality. Big theme of the rest of the year. The lunar node, north node of the moon, does not enter Pisces until January 2025. So we don't get that lunar node actually entering, true lunar node, until 2025, but the eclipse sets off the beginning of those stories. It's very true. I've seen it so often. The first eclipse in the new sign kicks off a whole cycle of change in that sign house, if you're using the whole sign systems. So in October, we get the last eclipse in Libra. Just as the first eclipse in the Pisces-Virgo axis arrives, we're winding down the eclipse cycle in the cardinal axis, Libra-Aries axis, and 2nd October brings that final eclipse in Libra. It's less than a year after the first. The first eclipse there was 15 October last year. Solar eclipse in Libra. Did a lot to our reality. It kicked off the events in Palestine, Israel around the war. And so I'm very much interested in how those relational reconfigurations, literal, legalistic reconfigurations around space and agreements around space and place, and all of the tragedies that have gone on there, the horrific loss of life, 10% of the population of Gaza, something as extreme as that, probably higher, multiple Hiroshima, Nagasaki's, if you add up the tonnage of what's been dropped on Gaza. So it's horrific. And I'm just hoping that maybe this last eclipse in Libra can take us out of the tragedy of what's happened there, and we can get some kind of new agreement. I know China just brokered a deal with some of the regional groups. I know that there's been talk of peace ongoing. You just hope some of that can come through here and we can stop the war there. That is one thing that I think this last Libra eclipse may kick off. Venus is in Scorpio for this one, so maybe a little bit rougher. The domicile lord in Scorpio, feeling the deeper pains of life, the deeper tragedies. So, if there is another kickoff of suffering, we're gonna have to confront some deep pain and tragedy, Venus and Scorpio for this one. Not my favorite way to look at October. I'm really concerned in a way about that. We do hope for peace and we want it to come soon. And this is the thing about the Venus story, is that Venus here in 2024 is a evening star for the rest of the year. It's visible and beautiful. I haven't seen it yet. I want to see that shining radiant goddess so bad. It's a main theme of the rest of the year because Venus will move through Libra. Remember, it's strong in September. We'll hit Capricorn eventually, and that is important, I think, in November at some point, because when Venus is in Capricorn, I'll put the exact dates here, but it's the last time it'll have a little bit of strength, being that Capricorn is the sign of its day triplicity. Venus is the day triplicity ruler of Capricorn, is probably the better way to say that. But Venus will, right at the beginning of 2025, enter Pisces on the 3rd of January. And Venus, wow, look at this, a turtle. Just want to show you this turtle. Hey guy, hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you at all. There you go, look, hey, it's okay, I'm a friend. You're going to be on the video for a lot of people in the world. Look at you, man, have a good day. So anyhow, a beautiful turtle. That's a good omen, I think, you know, seeing a turtle like that. And we're talking about Venus. I was saying Venus entering Pisces. Once it enters Pisces on 3 January 2025, it will not leave Aries or Pisces. It's going to be in either Aries or Pisces until 6 June. So the first half of 2025 is Venus locked in these two signs. Of course, it has a full 40-day and 40-night retrograde in March and April in 2025. I'll break all this stuff down in deeper videos, but the point is that the end of the year this year is a real Venus cycle opportunity because it's still moving through sectors, and you might think about how Venus won't maybe return to a sign like Capricorn for quite a while because it has to stop and renew. So basically enjoy Venus and enjoy this final flourishment of the Venus cycle. And you know, this might be all the kind of Venusian things. Second half of 2024, pleasure, love, creativity, the arts, you know, engaging in that stuff, because it's all going to get renewed first half of 2025. And it's good to sometimes just enjoy a part of a cycle, knowing that that cycle will change and that will bring, you know, challenges for Venus and renewal and rebirth. And we might have to let go of Venusian things first half of 2025. Coming to November, you're going to have Mars opposite Pluto in Capricorn on the 3rd of November. You will have Mars entering Leo on the 4th of November, the sign where Mars will station retrograde on the 6th of December, and then the US presidential election on the 5th of November, Tuesday. So that 3rd, 4th, 5th is all about Mars and Pluto, and then Mars coming to the sign where it's going to grind to a halt. It's not really a good omen in my view for the election resolving immediately. Now, you can't quite know this stuff, but Mars, the day before the election, entering a sign where it's about to retrograde on the 6th of December. What if there is some kind of legal crisis or legal challenge? The idea that the winner, the other side's accusing the winning side of losing and being cheated. You know, so all that's in play. This isn't hard to predict, right? All elections have had this the last few cycles. So I think we get more of that, and Mars is telling us that. You know, you wonder about Mars opposite Pluto on the 3rd, violence or any kind of horrific stuff that maybe is part of this build up or lead up. You hope not, but those symbols are quite difficult and volatile. Just to check in about the presidential election, I may release a full video about it, but my Saturn and Pisces prediction, looking good, isn't it? Kamala is out there. The betting odds are way in her favor now. It's swung way in favor of Kamala. And that was quite a shock in one sense because of how out ahead Trump was with the bettors and with the polls. And a lot of that, I think, had to do with Biden just being infirm and not really all there mentally. So when you remove that, you get Kamala in, and now there's a real surge for the Democrats. It's looking like they're going to win, you know, and I'm not changing my prediction, you know, and in fact, I mean, this is a whole separate topic, but, you know, the prediction, I showed my work, right? It's a cycle that's held. It's not really even about me. It's just, I've identified a cycle. That's it. So if it doesn't hold, hey, it just didn't hold, but it's looking good. There's a Mercury retrograde, the final one of the year, 26 November to 15 December. And that's the period between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's good for rest and renewal. And that Mercury retrograde is fully in Sagittarius. So maybe we're renewing some of our fervor and belief and identity to finish out the year. You'll get an inferior conjunction right in Sag. Jupiter still in Gemini, so there's something about this mutability now of identity and passion and self and maybe what we're committed to that happens in the period right after Thanksgiving or around Thanksgiving and then right before Christmas. Keep that in mind with your holiday plans. You know, there's a Mercury retrograde. You might want to either do stuff after Christmas or before Thanksgiving and use the Mercury retrograde to sort of wind down rather than resting after Christmas, for example. And so the period of 6 December to 15 December, both Mars and Mercury will be retrograde at the same time. And that's important to note because it means we're doubling up on this idea of delayed action and pause and plan, which means that you might want to get stuff done in November. I think the first half of November is really a good moment, or maybe the final moment to really come into some action and getting out there and initiating. Just keep watching my channel. I'll be grinding here with you and with this astrology all fall and breaking it all down as we go. And then the final thing to close the video, the final important thing I want to highlight for the second half of this year is on the 30th of December, there's a new moon in Capricorn, the final syzygy, newer full moon of the year. And that Capricorn new moon is really interesting because all planets are averse to the sun and moon except one, Saturn and Pisces. And so it's this real moment where it accentuates the Saturn and Pisces story that we're in, and this Saturn and Pisces moment. Remember, Saturn is the father time. And so whatever Saturn's doing, I find it to be a key energy that oversees everything. All other transits get overseen by Saturn and Pisces, and we're still deep in it. So we're back with these Piscean themes. We finish out the year with this major accentuation of the Saturn and Pisces themes. I think it's something like being in the dreamscape, being lost in the dreamscape, trying to discover new foundations within this changing world that we're in, and this transitional period that we're in. We're kind of grasping for tethering and the anchor that we can rely on, and we're deep in a process there. And so, you know, something like Deep in a Dream, one of my favorite songs. I love the Chet Baker variant of that. Go play that on YouTube if you haven't. Just a beautiful, beautiful song. Hey buddy, how are you, guy? Little dog there, that's beautiful. And so we're gonna be deep in the dream here by the end of the year, and deeply into this Piscean dreamscape. Sometimes it may feel nightmarish. It's certainly gonna feel untethered, and it's certainly gonna feel out of control. But settling into that, sometimes gonna be the most beautiful stuff. Just releasing into reality as it unfolds is the strategy and the way to go, in my view. And we'll be called to do that. We'll be called into release, internal release, spiritual release, all kinds of letting go into these greater forces of life and reality. Remember, we're part of a collective. We're part of a unit of a collective. So we can't take things personally, but at the same time, we have personal responsibility to send out the best of our selfhood and our consciousness and our thought forms and our emotions. I think we'll get a chance to do some of that here, to practice love in the face of change and out of control movement, and just try to love well. I mean, that's always a theme. And it's certainly a Piscean theme, and Pisces becomes the player, the sign at the end of 2024, riding the dreamscape, wrestling with the unknown, prioritizing feeling and music and love, maybe over all else. You know, they say that it's how people make you feel is what you remember about people. So try to make people feel good if you can. Send love. All right, that's the video, a quick breakdown of the second half of 2024. I hope this can help you plan for the rest of your year. You can support the channel, like and subscribe, make a comment if you want. What are you looking forward to for the rest of the year? What transits do you like? Anything that's drawing you in, I'll look at it, maybe respond to some of the comments if I can. You can always follow me on Instagram, sjanderson233, having a lot of fun over there. You can go to my website, sjanderson144.com. This is all in the description as well. If you want to schedule readings with me, I'm open. I've got readings for the rest of the year. You know, October, November, December. I don't plan on taking a large chunk of time off. I can talk to you about your particular situation if you'd like. Just go to my website, click here to schedule the reading right at the top. Have a great rest of August. I hope you're getting through this mutable T-square, and I hope Mercury retrograde's treated you well. Keep resting, keep renewing. Take care, talk soon, peace.